want to say I started that maybe like right around the year mark or
Okay.
right, or maybe a little bit before he turned a year or something like that.
Okay. So yeah, I remember reading some of your posts about the helmet,
Yeah.
getting the helmet and
So that was a regular feature of our life for quite some time. And so those were,
oh, I'm sure.
I would say of everything we've experienced, drop seizures were the worst because you never know and they make everything dangerous. And we actually still have our floor, most of our floor downstairs because it's hardwood covered in, those kid mats, those little foam mats that you piece together. And we've
like
never
the
taken
big puzzles of foam.
Yeah. Yeah. And he hasn't had one in like a couple years, but we almost feel like it's a jinx to take it up. So, and we don't really like our floors anyway. So we still have these crazy colors and shapes all over our downstairs.
Oh, that's cool. I like it. Yeah. Yeah. So he stopped having the drop seizures. Knock on wood.
He did. And that was 100% due to cannabis oil.
Seriously.
Yes.
So yeah, tell me the experience about, okay. So as far as meds, just, backtrack a little. He was on the Sobril. Now, did he come off that or?
We did go off that at one point, and that was actually kind of, I think, what triggered major changes in the seizures. Going off for us was a mistake.
Really?
It was helping apparently a lot more than just the infantile spasms. So he's actually back on it and been on it most of his life. And he's about to turn 7.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been through a lot of different meds. I mean, when he went off that, we tried, I think for him, and it's different for everybody. I always hesitate to say, like, something's a bad drug because it didn't work for us because it works for other people. But Trileptal,
isn't that funny? I know. Yep. We tried Trileptal too.
Trileptal for him, I seem to make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on Onfi. He's not anymore. He's been on Klonopin. He's been on, gosh, I don't even remember. He's been on pretty much, I know he's tried at least 8 or 9 drugs.
Yeah.
So
before he would be the CBD trial.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So, so we tried all those and they just kind of came and went. And so basically, I got back in 2014, I kind of got hooked up with some other parents who, were very interested in using cannabis oil. And that was kind of around the time that Charlotte, Figgy got a lot of attention. She was in that,
Charlotte's Web.
Sanjay,
so
for Charlotte's Web. Yeah. And Sanjay Gupta, did his special. And that kind of, I mean, there were a lot of people that worked really hard to bring cannabis to the forefront before that, but that was I feel like kind of gave it to push to the forefront of being more of a normalized thing where like people who you wouldn't normally think would be into it started to talk about it.
Yes. Yes.
And so I got involved with a group of parents that.
So you had the atonic, the drop seizures. So you can't find any treatment for them. So you're like, what can I do? And you network with this group of parents that's using cannabis oil.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah. Well, they weren't using it yet, but they were all interested.
They were looking into it.
And getting something done here in Georgia.
Okay.
So that was kind of a group of parents that all came together to start pushing it here in the state of Georgia because we had nothing whatsoever that was allowed. And and so I knew a lot of the parents. Like, so the first year it was Representative Alan Peake. He's no longer he stepped down. He retired. But from Macon, Georgia, he met a little girl named Haley Cox, whose parents who I got to know through the whole our going down to the Capitol and everything. But he met her. The mom reached out and was like, "We need access." And so he was kind of the one who took on taking the bills, writing the bills, going in there, and he took a lot of crap for it because it's such a conservative state. But he started it. So the first year, we worked on a bill and I know I was naive. Like we had opposition, but we also thought, oh, sick kids. I mean, they'll help, and didn't go anywhere. We had some key people that didn't want to support us, and a lot of people were still super suspicious. Just a lot of the how are they going to smoke it? Didn't want to learn anything more about it, and So it didn't go anywhere the first year. And so we went back to 2015 and then 16 and 17. And where we currently stand is that we have a very limited law, but it does provide some immunity for if you have certain conditions, it will protect you for having possession of certain types of medical cannabis. We can't get it here. If, you gotta go get it and risk getting caught bringing it back. But you're protected if you have the card once you're here. And we're still working on trying to get cultivation. Getting it grown in the state so we can get rid of that hurdle. But of course, while I feel like overwhelmingly people who are people are supportive on both sides of the aisle. You still have those key people that just, are like, oh, this is just a pathway to weed.
My goodness. Tell me.
So I've definitely been told that, I'm just using my kid to so I can get high.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, there are those people. I mean, not like people I know in person. I mean, this is of course, everyone's a warrior online. So but you definitely.
Oh yeah, you're opening yourself up to some really crazy.
Like I had one guy who snagged a bunch of photos of me that I had posted. I went to college in Athens, and I went back, and it's a college town, has some funky stuff. I was in a weird store that sells weird stuff, and they actually do sell like the water pipe stuff. They weren't even in the photos, but it was just a weird looking store that I guess in the background you could have said like, oh hey, this is a pot shop in Colorado. And this is exactly what he did. He said that he thought I was the CEO of the TS Alliance, and he posted a bunch of stuff saying that I was taking charitable money to go and buy weed in Colorado.
Oh my goodness.
All this stuff. And it was like, I don't know. Like, okay.
Swear word. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was totally ridiculous. But I mean,
How frustrating for you.
I just thought like, this is how you spend your time.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you definitely get some weirdos, but I feel like overall, I really feel like overall this is a door that's been opened and it can't be closed. And
I don't think so.
Who are against it can fight it all you want, but I mean, read any post where, I don't understand why police departments still do this, but they take the photos of the big pot bust and here we are, we confiscated all this weed. And if you read the comments underneath, no, the country's ready. Like they're talking.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, in Massachusetts, it's legal recreationally and medically. And to be honest, I may have to cut this part out, but I went and got my card. Basically, well, I use it personally, but to also be ready to understand it, to use it for my kids if necessary. Because I don't think they'll be eligible for the Epidiolex until they cycle through meds and they're stable. So,
Right.
But I believe that it's far better than a lot of the pharmaceutical solutions.
I agree because Connor actually ended up, while we were in the process of trying to get something permitted here, he ended up being able to, his neurologist was doing his own Epidiolex trial.
Really?
So we ended up qualifying for that. And this was kind of like right before we were hoping to maybe get some sort of bill passed for kids with seizures. But I thought, we don't know what's going to happen. Let's go ahead and move forward with this trial just in case we can't get the regular oil. And so we started the trial. And I will say Epidiolex was amazing for a few months. I mean, it was the drop seizures pretty much stopped unless he was sick. And we saw a major decrease in the other stuff too. And we were kind of like, oh wow, okay, this is it. This is great. But what we found after a few months was he started getting like really lethargic. Like I feel like he kind of had a lot of that brain activity we couldn't see came back, although that wasn't confirmed by the EEG. And he wasn't right. So I kind of started, I was still hooked into all the cannabis people, and I was in a couple like support groups, people who were using like the regular oils, like, out in Colorado. Cause by that point, several of the families that I met here trying to get a law passed had to move out to Colorado for their kids. So I knew a lot of what we call them, the Georgia cannabis refugees. So I kind of started doing some comparisons, of like, you don't totally know everything that's in a pharmaceutical, but I kind of knew what the concentration of CBD was. So I kind of started asking some questions about how their concentration of CBD compared to, say if I were to order a Charlotte's Web or Haley's Hope. And I realized that the CBD is way more concentrated. He was on way more CBD in Epidiolex than he would be taking the oils. And, and that might work for some kids, but it was kind of considered a lot when I talked to some people who were more experienced with cannabis. So I kind of, I took it, and I apologize to the doctor. I don't think he was not happy with me, but I took it upon myself to nothing crazy, but just lower the dose a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Just to kind of see. And the change was immediate. He perked right up and started acting normal again.
Really?
And that's when I thought, okay, yeah, there's too much, it gets too much. Because kind of, if you have issues, typically and you're on pharmaceuticals, oh, well, you raise it, you try it.
Right.
So I think a lot of people who are having this issue with the Epidiolex, because I know we're not alone, I think that it's just too high. It's just too much.
It's got to be hard. It's like almost an individualized thing, and
it is. It really is. And so, following pharmaceutical protocols is very difficult. I'm not saying that Epidiolex can't work, but we kind of after some time we thought, if we're on this, we got to run everything through the doctor, or he gets mad, or because we kind of screwed around with obviously like doing that on a trial he was not thrilled with us about that. And we thought, you know what, we want to have the freedom to do it as we feel necessary. So it was at that time we decided to exit the trial. And, you know, the drop seizures had come back because it wasn't really working anymore. And we ended up switching to Haley's Hope. And again, as soon as that started kicking in, we saw the drop seizures start to level off. So that's two times now that we saw CBD be the component that stopped the drop seizures. And then it took some time to totally get rid of them. They would come back typically when he was sick. Or something, you know, something a little under the weather. Vulnerable. Yeah. But nothing like what they were. And then eventually, like they just kind of leveled out altogether, and then he hasn't worn a helmet, or I haven't seen a drop seizure in over 2 years. So.
Wow. That's great.
And I fully, like, cannabis oil did not make him seizure free. It didn't solve everything, but 100% I credit it for the drop seizures, stopping the drop seizures. And I also felt like it kind of, this wasn't even why we went on, but he does also have an autism diagnosis, which is common with TSC.
Yes, it is.
And I think it kind of calmed him down with some of his stimming. Like he'd get really excited and like flap his arms, but he would get so excited over something, you know, he'd kind of start sweating and it kind of calmed that too. It wasn't as bad. I'd gotten him like a weighted vest to kind of help calm him down, and we ended up never needing it because he wouldn't get quite as worked up and get all sweaty and
right. And that's the potential with cannabis. I think that it's gonna hit more than just the seizures. It's gonna take, you know, when they actually are allowed to study it more rigorously. But wow, that's an incredible experience.
Yeah.
So you figured out pretty much your own dosage for Connor.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there are guidelines. When we started with the Haley's Hope, they have a support group to give advice. They do have a dosing calculator, but it's a recommendation. I mean, because everyone is so different. So, you know, it kind of helps you calculate by weight.
That's good to know.
Kind of a starting point. But from there on, it is kind of a guessing game. You kind of go up, you go down. Like, you know, sometimes if we see an increase in seizures, we'll go up a little bit. But depending on what type of seizure it is, it doesn't necessarily help. I think the cannabis oil helped lessen other seizure types, but nothing so dramatic as the drop. So he's not fully off pharmaceuticals, unfortunately. I wish that would have been the story for us, but it's not. So we have found that pharmaceuticals still for him tend to help more with some of his other seizure types. But I'm always curious because, you know, we're in Georgia and we're so limited to what we can get. Because you have to go out of state to get anything other than like Haley's Hope, Charlotte's Web, basic stuff you can get shipped because of the farm bill. But anything else that has any higher THC, you got to go get, and which isn't really like feasible.
Right.
And it's really hard to experiment when if you're having to travel back and forth. So I always wonder, like, if we had access to more types and options, you know, maybe we could find a combination that would get him off pharmaceuticals. But right now we don't have that. So he's on Sabril, and he ended up actually after an ICU incident, he ended up back on phenobarbital, which really helped a lot. And that kind of helps, you know, that's more what we rely on for the other stuff, but cannabis oil and the drop seizures was incredible. So, and no pharmaceuticals were helping with the drop seizures.
Well, you know, kudos to you for pursuing that and the advocacy involved, because that sounds like really tough.
I mean, it's amazing. I've met some like really amazing parents. I mean, some of the Georgia parents that I've worked with like practically lived down at the Capitol.
Really?
And they're still to this day, like I haven't been as involved. It's infuriating. I mean, it's really, I honestly, I miss how naive I was about politics. Now I'm like pretty in tune. I follow a lot. I do some writing about it. But I miss the days when I was clueless, because knowledgeable and watching how things work did not make me feel better about anything.
Oh, I can only imagine. Yeah.
It's very upsetting to watch in action a lot of the stuff that goes on.
I bet. So as far as the family impact, how has the experience been, you know, for all of you? It's just you, your husband, and Connor. Has it been, and, you know, extended family, if you want to share on that at all, if you have anything to share?
We've been very lucky. You know, I definitely read a lot of kind of horror stories about how extended family doesn't get it, or, you know, just not supportive at all. And I feel like we're very lucky in that we have a lot of family support. My parents live locally, so they're pretty much our primary babysitter. They're pretty much our only babysitter. So, and they're always like going out of their way to like take them or keep them for a night, keep them for a weekend, you know, so that we can get some time. So we're super lucky with all that we don't have any of the kind of the family drama where, you know, we don't get like left out of stuff or, you know, even though he